in all of our wildest dreams, in any movie that we've ever seen, the CGI effects that we have witnessed, any piece of art or painting or anything else cannot begin to compare to what we heard in the second reading from the book of Revelation. Streets of marble, courses of stone etched with the names of the apostles, amethyst, beryllium, all these gates made of these precious gems. We cannot even imagine. And this is the world that awaits us. When we hear about Revelation, sometimes we get so depressed and we're pessimistic. And yet it's a story of a world that was never meant to last forever. That we want the end to come at some point. Because if it doesn't, we'll never see these walls. We'll never witness these streets. And we'll never see our loved ones who have gone before us, marked with the sign of faith. We can hear the anticipation in the voice of Jesus in the gospel. He says, you know, if you really understood this and you really loved me, you would rejoice that I'm getting ready to die and really reach the goal of our life, which is to join our Father in heaven. You know, we had a tragic death this week with the death of a bishop. And I couldn't help when I walked into the rectory last night, and this picture is hanging in the rectory as well. And I looked at him and I thought, I'll bet you're smiling. You know, you've reached your life's goal. And even if we think, you know, he's in purgatory, going through some reparation for sins of the past, he's still smiling. Because he sees the gates and the streets. They're just a little bit out of reach just yet. And so we all really feel that sting of death when someone that we love, with someone that we've had the privilege to experience in our life, has gone before us. Because even though we rejoice that they are going to heaven, or that they're on their way to heaven, they still leave this space behind, this vacuum. And that should be a reminder to us of why we are here and what we're supposed to do. You know, in our 2 years with this bishop, it was kind of a mixed bag knowing what to expect. Because you have a guy, you know, when you're in your mid-60s, I don't want to speak for any of you, but when you're in your mid-60s, I would think you're kind of winding down. You don't want the lifestyle where you go 12 hours a day working solid. You know, you're thinking maybe about retirement or slowing down a little bit. And so we get a bishop that's coming in and you might think, okay, he's done so much in his life as a priest, now he's going to have a nice diocese in Harrisburg, he can wind down a bit. And as soon as he arrived, he was like a ball of fire, starting all this new stuff. That in 2 years that he was here, he had moved over 50% of our priests. And I think he was getting ready to move another 25% this spring, which is still in the works. And in my encounters with him, they were few, and they were so varied. I remember talking to him about something that I had an idea to do at Lebanon Catholic when I was chaplain there. And I told him this whole great idea, everything I had planned. And then he went on to tell me what he had done at Cardinal O'Hara. And he said, I did this, and he went through all the stories. And then he looked at me and he said, now what are you going to do at Lebanon Catholic? And I repeated almost verbatim what he had just told me he did at Cardinal O'Hara. He would often have the priests come over for a picnic with the seminarians and everything else, and he would like to play these games, and one of them was cornhole. It's kind of like a beanbag toss. But he cheated. He cheated all the time. And so I knew this, and I didn't want to play. And Father Lavoie said, come on, play. The bishop wants to, no, I'm not going to do it. And Father Brommer, come on, you can be on our team. We'll play. No, I'm not going to do it. And then Bishop would say, come on, you're playing. And then I'd go over and play. But what do you say about that? I mean, when it's on the grass, it didn't even land on the board, and he says, that's touching the board. That counts as, you know, you end up on the Russian front or something like that. You know, you never know. And yet, in all the interactions, he was always very pastoral. And he always not just reached out to the priests, but he reached out to the people as well. And so he certainly will be missed. Now, for the rest of the story. And the rest of the story is this. They finally interviewed the priest who was with him when he died. And this is the story he told. Bishop went down for a meeting in Philadelphia, and he asked to stay at a little apartment that was on the grounds of this parish. And so the pastor graciously allowed him to stay there. And early in the morning, he felt sick, so he called the pastor, and he said, I think I need to go to the emergency room. And the pastor said, do you want me to call an ambulance? And he said, no, the hospital's right around the corner, just drive me there, it'll be faster. And they're on their way there, and I think the priest in the car was nervous. He was really kind of upset the bishop is sick, and he's taking him. So he started making small talk and asked him how he's doing. And the bishop spoke of the love he had for the people of the Diocese of Harrisburg. And he spoke of the love he had for his priests. And that he was so excited. Now, I'm on the seminary review board with him. We had just accepted 4 new seminarians, and there were 7 more on the docket to be interviewed. And so things were going really great. And then he paused for a moment, and he said to the priest, give me absolution. And the priest pulled over the car and gave him absolution. And then he stooped forward and died. And the priest had taken him out of the car and tried to resuscitate him, and he called 911, and they tried to resuscitate him, but there was no bringing him back. Now I think about that. Jesus says, I will leave you an advocate, a Holy Spirit, who will teach you and remind you of everything I've taught. That's what we do. The Holy Spirit inspires the bishops of the church, who are the apostles, to remind us of what it's all about. Not just what they say, because anyone can say stuff. It's not what we say. It's what they do that we must believe. And in this hour, when the bishop knew that his time was ending, he turned to the sacraments. That's what we do. That's what we do as Catholics. We turn to the sacraments. We turn to the church when the world cannot give us a peace that Christ did. That's the lesson for us. Because that's who we are. That's what we do. And that's what our bishop would want us to remember.